I lay rigid in the king-size bed, eyes squeezed shut, feigning deep rest while every syllable of their hushed conversation seared itself into my brain, slow and brutal. Mr. Voss, I have to ask again. Are you absolutely certain you want to administer the termination medication to Sharon? She's spent 3 years begging to carry your child, Mrs. Voss Sr.'s inheritance rule is clear. Whichever daughter-in-law bears the first legitimate Voss grandchild claims 60% of the corporate voting shares. You fought Carter for that stake your entire adult life, and now you're surrendering before your child even takes its first breath. Dr. Hale's voice carried genuine, confused dismay, quiet enough not to drift through the door, but loud enough for me to parse every word through the thin bedroom wall. Wesley laughed, a hollow, bitter sound I'd never heard him use around me. The soft warmth he reserved for my presence stripped clean away. Luna deserves to birth the first Voss heir, not Sharon. If Luna and Carter secure the controlling stock, she'll finally have the stable life I've spent decades craving to give her. The company never mattered on its own. I only competed against Carter for the power to provide Luna everything she ever wanted. Once she married my brother, that goal died. I don't care about the conglomerate anymore. My fingers dug deep into the luxury Egyptian cotton sheets, nails piercing my palms hard enough to draw faint, stinging blood I ignored. I kept my breathing slow, steady, pretending slumber, so they would know I'd uncovered the lie underpinning every single loving gesture Wesley had offered me for 3 full years. Dr. Hale hesitated, shifting his weight outside the hallway. What about Sharon? She's your legal wife. You can't erase 3 years of marriage like none of it existed, and terminating this pregnancy will devastate her beyond repair. She's devoted every waking hour to supporting you, even when Margaret and Carter treated her like an unwanted outsider. Wesley's tone sharpened, cold and dismissive, nothing like the tender man who'd held me while I cried over my father's sudden heart attack years prior. I did her a favor by marrying her after Carter left her stranded at the altar. That should be enough repayment for any small hardship she faces. Once Luna delivers her baby, we can try again with Sharon. Another child, a second chance to make it up to her point. One lost fetus is a trivial sacrifice for Luna's happiness. Tears burned hot behind my closed eyelids, silent streams sliding down my temples to soak the pillow beneath my head. Every memory crashed forward in rapid, crushing succession. Carter abandoning me mid-wedding ceremony to elope with Luna, my father collapsing from cardiac arrest mid-argument with the Voss matriarch, the weeks I spent bedridden with crippling grief while Wesley moved into my guest wing, swore he'd pull me out of the dark, promised a lifetime of safety and unconditional love. All of it had been a carefully staged performance, a temporary cover-up to shield Luna's reputation from the scandal of running off with her fiancé's brother. I was nothing more than a disposable placeholder, a distraction to keep society from gossiping about the Voss family's messy, incestuous obsession with their adopted daughter. I heard Wesley's footsteps recede back down the hallway as Dr. Hale departed through the service stairwell, and I forced myself to wait 10 full minutes before sitting upright, my entire body trembling from cold, unshakable betrayal. When Wesley slipped back into our bedroom minutes later, his expression instantly softened into that practiced, warm concern I'd once trusted with my entire heart. He rushed to the bedside, kneeling beside me, brushing loose strands of hair from my damp cheeks. Baby, you're crying in your sleep? Bad pregnancy nightmare. Does the baby's kicking hurt your stomach? He reached for a cell phone, ready to summon Dr. Hale back immediately, and I clamped a shaky hand over his wrist to stop him, forcing a hollow, unconvincing smile onto my face. Just a silly dream, nothing serious, don't bother the doctor this late. My voice cracked, thin and fragile, and Wesley's brow creased with manufactured worry, pulling me into his chest for a tight embrace. I let him hold me, letting his fake comfort wash over me while every cell in my body screamed to pull away, to scream the truth I'd overheard directly to his face. He rested his chin atop my head, murmuring gentle reassurances into my hair. I'm right here. Nothing can hurt you, or our little one while I'm around. Everything's falling into place for us, I promise. I stared blankly at the wall over his shoulder, fully aware every word leaving his mouth was a calculated falsehood. He planned to kill the child I'd waited 3 years to conceive, all to hand Luna complete control of the Voss family fortune, and he expected me to blindly accept the loss, to wait patiently for him to impregnate me again once Luna secured her inheritance claim. I lay awake through the entire night, rigid in his arms, plotting how to uncover every secret Wesley had hidden behind his mask of devotion. Once Wesley slipped into deep, heavy sleep hours before dawn, I carefully lifted his smartphone off the nightstand beside our bed. The primary lock screen password was our wedding anniversary date, a code I'd memorized instantly, and unlocking it revealed a spotless surface. 0 suspicious text threads, no hidden photos, no sketchy call logs with Luna or Dr. Hide it. It was far too clean, deliberately sanitized to hide his double life, and a memory flickered in the back of my mind. Wesley once mentioning he'd set up a secondary encrypted system partition years prior, locked with a separate passcode only Luna knew. I typed in Luna's birthday without hesitation, my hands shaking so badly I mistyped twice before the phone screen shifted, opening a hidden folder completely separate from his main device. The first gallery album loaded immediately, thousands upon thousands of candid photographs spanning Luna's entire adolescence and adulthood. Childhood snapshots from the Voss Summer Lake house, hospital discharge photos from every minor cold or sprained ankle she'd ever endured, blurry secret shots of her and Carter sneaking off together before the wedding. Intimate close-ups only someone deeply infatuated would collect and store for years. I navigated to the locked notes application next, every entry meticulously cataloging Luna's smallest wants and grievances, Wesley's private plans to cater to her every whim, his internal monologue about loving her long before Carter had ever fallen for her. Every page detailed his unrequited lifelong fixation on the adopted sister both Voss brothers obsessed over, proof our marriage existed solely to preserve Luna's public image as an innocent, wronged young woman rather than a homewrecker who'd stolen her foster brother's bride on their wedding day. The final folder contained archived text messages between Wesley and Luna, dated only 3 days prior to my positive pregnancy test. I scrolled to the most recent exchange, reading each line until nausea twisted my gut violently, forcing me to clap a hand over my mouth to muffle a gag reflex powerful enough to wake Wesley from sleep. Luna, I heard Sharon's pregnancy test came back positive. Margaret's inheritance rule means she'll take majority stock if she delivers first. I can't let that happen, Wes. I need to be the one to give the Voss family their first grandchild, Wesley. Whatever you ask for, I'll deliver it. This will be the last thing I do to hurt Sharon, though. After Luna's baby arrives, I'll dedicate the rest of my life making amends to her. The words blurred behind my tear-filled eyes, and I stumbled off the edge of the bed, doubling over beside the nightstand to retch quietly into a wastebasket. The sharp, violent heaves jolted Wesley awake instantly, and I slammed the phone's secondary partition shut, locking the screen back to the clean primary interface before he could see a single trace of a hidden evidence. He scrambled out of bed in a panic, rushing to my side to rub slow circles along my back, his voice thick with performative alarm. Sweetheart, brutal morning sickness hitting you this hard? I'll brew ginger tea and grab the anti-nausea medication Dr. Hale left for you last week. It'll calm your stomach down in minutes. I shook my head weakly, attempting to wave him off, but he ignored my quiet protest, hurrying to the in-suit bathroom to retrieve a small orange pill bottle from the medicine cabinet. When he returned, he pressed 2 small white tablets firmly into my palm, his tone gentle yet unyielding, leaving zero room for argument. Take these right now, baby. If you keep vomiting like this, you'll dehydrate yourself and risk harming the baby. I hate seeing you suffer. I stared down at the pills resting in my palm, instantly recognizing the exact termination medication Dr. Hale had referenced outside the bedroom door hours earlier. Wesley held out a glass of filtered water, waiting for me to swallow the dose, and I understood in that moment he had no intention of sparing our unborn child, no shred of remorse for the life he planned to end for Luna's benefit. I placed the tablets onto my tongue, washed them down with cold water, and forced a blank, compliant expression to hide the utter despair consuming me from the inside out. If this was the fate my child and I were destined for, I would not fight it. I would step aside, remove myself from the Voss family's toxic love triangle, and let them have the inheritance, the perfect family dynamic, the unbroken reputation they craved so desperately at my expense. Within 5 minutes, the medication surged through my bloodstream, igniting a searing, stabbing pain radiating from my lower abdomen all the way through my spine. I collapsed onto the carpeted bedroom floor, curling into a tight fetal position as sharp cramping racked every muscle in my body, white-hot agony short-circuiting my ability to speak or stand. Wesley dialed Dr. Hale in a blind panic, shouting frantically into the receiver as I slipped in and out of consciousness, fragments of his panicked shouts echoing in my fading hearing. You never warned me the termination drug had such violent side effects. She's fully unresponsive, convulsing on the floor. Get over here immediately. If anything permanent happens to her, I will ruin your medical license. My vision went dark seconds later, and I lost complete awareness of my surroundings. When I regained consciousness hours later, I was laid up in a private luxury hospital suite, fur lines snaking into my forearm, Wesley seated beside the hospital bed with bloodshot, puffy eyes, fake tears streaking down his jawline onto the sterile white hospital sheets. He pulled me into a weak, careful hug the second my eyes fluttered open, his voice breaking in manufactured grief. Sharon, you're awake. Our baby's gone. The housekeeper swapped your anti-nausea pills for termination medication out of nowhere. We fired her on the spot, pressed full criminal charges. There's nothing more we could have done to stop this tragedy. I pulled away from his embrace slowly, staring blankly at the wall opposite the hospital bed, every lie he wove landing hollow against my already shattered heart. I'd heard every word of his scheme with DR. Hale the night before, held the lethal pills he'd forced down my throat in my own 2 hands, uncovered his hidden phone archives, proving every choice had been intentional, premeditated cruelty, yet he stood there pretending an unrelated third party had sabotaged our pregnancy without his knowledge. Leave me alone for a while. Did I need space to process this? My voice came out flat, devoid of emotion, and Wesley hesitated, opening his mouth to beg for forgiveness, to spout more empty comfort, before he finally relented, stepping out of the hospital room with a defeated, sorrowful slump to his shoulders. The second the door latched shut behind him, I let silent, heavy tears pour down my face, mourning the child I'd lost to Wesley's obsessive fixation on Luna, grieving the 3 years I'd wasted loving a man who'd only ever seen me as a disposable cover story. I pulled my personal cell phone from the hospital nightstand, typing a quick text to my mother Eleanor, one of the world's most secretive multi-billionaire tech magnates, whose wealth and influence the entire Voss family had spent years underestimating, dismissing me as a penniless orphan after my father's passing. Mom, I was wrong to ignore all your warnings about the Voss family. I'm ready to fly to Boston to finish my advanced corporate governance program, take full operational control of our family conglomerate. I don't want anything to do with Wesley or the Voss name ever again. I booked a one-way private jet ticket to Massachusetts the instant the message sent, scheduling my departure for the following afternoon, already mentally mapping every step I needed to take to walk away from this marriage for good, to reclaim the power and wealth I'd hidden from the Voss clan for years out of blind, foolish love for Wesley. Minutes after I finalized my travel arrangements, Wesley pushed the hospital suite door open, carrying a ceramic bowl of homemade chicken broth he claimed he'd simmered himself that morning. He set the tray down beside my bed, reaching out to brush stray tears off my cheek with his thumb, his touch cold and alien against my skin now that I understood the full extent of his deception. Eat something, darling. You've lost so much blood and stress these last 12 hours. We'll try for another baby as soon as your doctor clears you to conceive. Any number of children you want, all ours, no more accidents like this one. I refused to meet his gaze, staring at the sterile linens covering my legs, fully aware he viewed my grief as a temporary inconvenience he could smooth over with empty promises and performative kindness. If he thought a bowl of soup and hollow pledges of future children could erase the pain of losing our baby to his calculated scheme, he had vastly underestimated how completely he destroyed every ounce of trust I'd ever held for him. A sharp knock cut through the tense silence of the hospital room before I could respond to Wesley's hollow comfort, and the door swung open to reveal Luna Voss, her face twisted into a mask of fake sympathy, one hand resting gently over her noticeably rounded stomach, a detail that sent a fresh wave of rage boiling through my veins. She glided across the room to stand beside my hospital bed, her tone dripping with manufactured regret. I heard about your miscarriage, Sharon. I'm absolutely devastated for you that I found out I was pregnant 3 months ago myself. Look how far along I am already. I'd hoped our kids could grow up as cousins, play together, support each other through everything life throws at them, but fate had other cruel plans for you. Wesley's head snapped toward Luna in an instant, his eyes blown wide with shock, a panicked half-sentence slipping out before he caught himself mid-thought, realizing I sat inches away, absorbing every piece of their secret exchange. You've been carrying Carter's child for 3 months this entire time, and you still asked me to terminate Sharon's pregnancy to secure the inheritance stake. He shot a frantic, nervous glance in my direction, visibly relieved when I maintained a neutral, unreadable expression, falsely assuming I hadn't pieced together the full, horrific timeline of their manipulation yet. Luna turned toward Wesley with a sweet, innocent smile, resting a soft hand on his forearm to tug him toward the exit door. Could you step out and settle my hospital billing paperwork for a minute, Wes? I want to chat with Sharon privately, girl to girl. I know exactly how heartbroken she must feel right now. I can comfort her better than any man possibly could. Wesley agreed without a second thought, rushing out of the suite to complete administrative tasks, leaving Luna alone with me, the fake compassion sliding clean off her face the second the door locked behind him, replaced with unfiltered malice and vicious satisfaction. She leaned down until her lips brushed my ear, her voice low, venomous, free of any pretense now that no one else could overhear our conversation. Miscarriage must feel agonizing, doesn't it? I'm sure you never guessed Wes personally orchestrated the medication to end your baby before it could steal my claim to the Voss fortune. Why did you have to carry his child anyway? He's loved me since we were teenagers. I've always been his priority. Always will be. Even though I'm legally married to Carter, I'd never allow you to birth Wesley's heir and take everything I'm entitled to. Before I could react to her taunting, Luna raised her own palm and delivered a loud, sharp slap across her right cheek, throwing her body backward to collapse onto the hospital floor in a dramatic, tearful heap. Wesley rounded the corner back into the suite at that exact moment, rushing forward to find Luna sobbing on the linoleum, a bright red handprint blooming across her skin, her eyes glistening with fake tears as she gestured toward me accusingly. Sharon, I only came here to console you over losing your baby. Why would you lash out and hit me? I'm carrying the first Voss grandchild. Any harm to me puts the entire family's legacy at risk. Wesley's face flooded with unbridled anger, spinning to face me, his voice raised loud enough to echo down the hospital hallway, unhesitatingly placing all blame for the staged incident entirely on my shoulders, without a single second of doubt or questioning. Sharon Reed, Luna flew all the way over here just to comfort you through your loss, and you assault her while she's carrying a baby? How could you be this cruel, this ungrateful for every kindness our family's given you over the last 3 years? Ignoring the foretube threaded into my forearm, I swung my legs over the side of the hospital bed, stepping forward until I stood inches from Luna's crumpled form on the floor, then delivered an equally firm slap to her untouched left cheek, leaving a matching red mark to prove my point. I stared Wesley dead in the eyes, tone cold and unwavering, no longer hiding my contempt for their elaborate shared lies. That slap was for me. The mark on her right cheek was self-inflicted for your benefit. Don't pretend you can't tell the difference between a genuine blow and her cheap, dramatic act. Luna's features contorted with unfiltered rage for a split second, quickly masking the fury to fall limply against Wesley's chest, feigning overwhelming distress and vulnerability. Wesley wrapped his arms around her instantly, lifting her fully off the ground to carry her out of my hospital suite, shooting one final furious glare back at me as the door slammed shut behind them, sealing me inside with nothing but my grief and the mountain of evidence proving every betrayal they'd committed against me. The hospital discharged me 24 hours after Luna, and Wesley stormed out carrying her. No staff checked in on my mental state. No nurse offered grief counseling. Wesley had pulled all strings to rush my release the second he'd settled Luna's billing, as if my presence in the private wing was an inconvenience to the Voss family's perfect public image. I signed my discharge papers alone, wheeled a single small suitcase out to the curb, and rode the town car back to the Voss mansion I'd called home for 3 hollow years. Every hallway, every marble countertop, every framed family photograph lining the walls reeked of manufactured happiness and hidden deceit. I walked past dozens of portraits, Wesley's arms slung loosely over my shoulders at charity galas, candid shots of us hiking mountain trails last summer, posed holiday photos where Luna lingered just out of frame, eyes fixed greedily on Wesley the entire time. Back then, I'd brushed off her lingering stares as harmless sibling fondness. Now I recognized each gaze as hungry, territorial covetousness for a man who'd only married me to shield her reputation. I dragged my suitcase into the master bedroom to pack my remaining belongings, moving slow and methodical, cataloging every expensive gift Wesley had bought me over the years. Designer jewelry, custom-tailored gowns, luxury leather handbags, all purchased not out of genuine affection, but as hush money to keep me docile, blind to his obsession with Luna. I'd never cared about his material wealth. My mother's conglomerate held assets worth 10 times the entire Voss corporate empire, a fact I'd buried for 3 years because I'd foolishly believed Wesley loved me for Sharon, not my hidden fortune. I'd barely filled half my suitcase when the front entrance slammed open, echoing through the empty mansion. Heavy footsteps marched straight toward the master suite, followed by Margaret Voss's shrill, unforgiving shout before she even crossed the bedroom threshold. Carter trailed behind her, one arm wrapped protectively around Luna's waist, Luna's head tilted against his shoulder in a performance of fragile victimhood, her cheeks still faintly marked with the twin slap prints from the hospital. Margaret planted herself directly in front of me, face purpling with unbridled contempt, her diamond rings glinting as she jabbed a finger hard into my chest. Sharon Reed, I cannot believe the depths of your cruelty. 2 miracles landed in this family. You and Luna both conceiving Voss heirs, and you lose your child, then turn around and brutalize a pregnant woman out of petty jealousy. You've embarrassed our entire bloodline in front of hospital staff. Carter cut in next, voice rough with unbridled anger, grabbing a crystal glass vase off the oak dresser and hurling it straight at my skull without hesitation. The ceramic connected hard with my forehead, sharp glass shards scattered across the carpet, warm blood instantly trickling down between my brows, dripping onto the white silk blouse I'd worn home from the hospital. I didn't flinch, didn't step back, just stood motionless and let the blood streak my skin. Margaret let out a bitter, mocking laugh at my stillness, crossing her arms tight over her chest. Don't stand there bleeding, pretending you're some poor martyr. That little stunt won't earn you any sympathy from me. The only way we'll even consider forgiving this vicious attack on Luna is if you drop to your knees right now and beg her forgiveness. If you refuse, I'll order Wesley to file for divorce by sundown. You'll lose every luxury this family's given you. My fingers tightened around the pre-printed divorce paperwork I'd pulled from my suitcase earlier that morning, documents drafted by Attorney Bennett before I'd even left the hospital. I grabbed a silver fountain pen from the nightstand, scrawled my full legal signature across every signature line without a single moment of hesitation, then slid the stack of papers across the dresser toward Margaret, my tone flat, devoid of any trace of sadness or rage. Divorce is exactly what I want. Don't waste energy threatening me with something I've already chosen. I lifted my suitcase off the floor, ready to walk out the door for good, but Luna stepped directly into my path, shoving the toe of her designer boot hard against the side of my luggage, tipping it sideways and spilling folded clothing across the carpet. Her voice dripped with patronizing condescension, eyes glinting with triumph as she stared down at me, blood still drying thick on my forehead. All of these clothes, jewelry, bags, they're Wesley's property, not yours. You can't just steal them and walk away like you're entitled to everything he worked to build. Something snapped inside me in that instant. 3 years of suppressed grief, the murder of my unborn child, endless humiliation at the hands of the entire Voss family, their collective willingness to discard me like trash for Luna's greed, all of it boiled over into sharp, unfiltered fury. I curled my fist and drove it clean into Luna's jaw before Carter, or Margaret could react to block me. She stumbled backward into Carter's chest, gasping, hand flying to her swollen cheek, and I didn't spare another glance at any of them. I righted my tip suitcase, hauled it back upright, and marched straight out the front door, ignoring their overlapping shouts and accusations trailing after me down the driveway. The private town car my mother's security team had dispatched waited curbside. I climbed into the back seat, gave the driver the address for the regional airport, and muted my personal cell phone the second I settled into the leather seats. Yet dozens of hostile text messages flooded my notifications nonstop the entire 40-minute drive, each sender a member of the Voss household, their cruelty unfiltered without Wesley's soft public mask to temper their malice. Carter's text popped up first. You couldn't carry a baby to term, and you attacked my pregnant wife. Wesley wasted 3 prime years of his life marrying a broken, unstable woman like you. Margaret followed minutes later. Come back to the mansion, grovel to Luna, and we might let you walk away with a small settlement. Refuse, and we'll drag your ruined reputation through every country club in the state. Luna sent a string of bitter, petty jabs, each one leaning into her fake, fragile act. I never wanted to fight you for Wesley's attention, but you're far too bitter to accept he's always loved me more. The final message landed as the car pulled up to airport drop-off, sent directly from Wesley, the words cold and final, laying bare every hidden resentment he'd concealed behind 3 years of gentle pretense. I deeply regret marrying you in the first place. A hollow, Bitter laugh escaped my throat as I read the line. At long last, he dropped the soft husband persona and admitted the truth he'd hidden all along. While waiting for my private flight crew to load my luggage onto the jet bound for Boston, I pulled up the live security feed link I'd installed in the Voss Master Suite months prior, an unnoticeable pinhole camera hidden inside a decorative wall clock, placed purely for safety back when I'd still trusted Wesley, unaware it would one day capture damning, irrefutable evidence of his betrayal. The live footage streamed crystal clear to my phone screen. Luna perched across the master bed, while Wesley rummaged through the medical supply cabinet retrieving anti-inflammatory cream for her bruised jaw. Her tone shifted back to sweet, simpering softness the second Wesley's hands touched her face. All earlier malice vanished behind a delicate pout. I don't understand why Sharon reacted so violently to me visiting her in the hospital. I only wanted to comfort her over losing the baby, and she hit me twice without provocation. Maybe you should chase after her and apologize for how her family treated her. She's probably just throwing a childish tantrum and will come crawling home in a few days. Wesley smoothed a dollop of cream across her cheek, leaning in close, his voice rough with exhaustion and blind devotion to her. Pay her no mind. I spoiled her far too much these past 3 years. Let her cool off alone for a week or two, and she'll beg to come back to our quiet life together. Luna tilted her head up toward him, fake worry lacing her tone even as her body pressed deliberately into his chest. But what if she stays gone? I hate seeing you torn apart over her anger. Wesley's reply came low and heated, cutting off any further discussion of me entirely, his hand sliding to rest lightly over her rounded, pregnant stomach without a single shred of guilt over the child he'd terminated inside me days earlier. Stop talking about her. She's nothing but a bad memory, not worth wasting another second of our time. You're carrying Carter's child, 3 months along, safe and stable. There's no risk to the baby right now. Before Luna could offer a weak token protest, Wesley leaned down and crushed his lips against hers, pulling her fully onto his lap on the mattress. Her half-hearted attempts to push him away were nothing more than performative modesty, her fingers tangling in his hair, body melting against his as he continued touching her, heedless of her pregnancy and the fact she was legally married to his own older brother. I sat frozen in the back of the airport car, recording every frame of the live camera feed onto an encrypted cloud drive linked exclusively to Attorney Bennett's secure server. Every kiss, every whispered confession, every quiet admission of their years-long affair became tangible, unarguable proof I could wield against the entire Voss bloodline in court. I saved a full backup copy to my encrypted hard drive for good measure, then closed the live stream, no longer able to stomach watching their shameless intimacy after they'd murdered my child to secure Luna's inheritance claim. 7 full days passed without a single outreach message from me to Wesley. I'd already boarded my private jet to Boston, enrolled in my mother's elite corporate governance doctoral program, and begun shadowing her C-suite executives to learn every layer of running a multi-billion-dollar tech conglomerate. Yet Wesley remained trapped in his bubble of denial, convinced I was merely throwing a dramatic temporary fit and would return to the mansion any hour. He wandered the lower floor of the Voss estate that 7th evening, searching every room for any trace of me, before calling over Mrs. Lopez, the long-serving housekeeper who'd witnessed every cruel interaction between the Voss family and me over 3 years. He leaned against the marble kitchen counter, jaw tight with irritation, demanding answers as if I'd vanished without logical cause. Mrs. Lopez, have you heard from Sharon at all? Tell her to drop this petty argument and return home immediately. She's still recovering from a miscarriage. Living alone somewhere is dangerous for her mental health. Mrs. Lopez's expression shifted into unmasked surprise, her hands pausing mid-wash of the dinner dishes, confusion thick in her voice as she replied. Mr. Voss, I assumed you knew, Mrs. Sharon signed the divorce papers at the mansion before she left, and your attorney finalized the legal separation paperwork 3 days ago. The official divorce certificate was delivered to your home office yesterday afternoon, sitting on your desk. Wesley's brain short-circuited entirely, every coherent thought vanishing in an instant. He'd signed the divorce documents in a blind rage after watching Luna's staged hospital injury, handed the full stack to his corporate lawyer for processing, then completely erased the entire incident from his mind after spending the night with Luna. It never crossed his mind I'd follow through on walking away for good. He'd assumed the divorce was nothing more than a hollow bargaining chip to force him into apologizing for his family's behavior. A cold panic crashed over him as he sprinted to his private home office, yanking open the desk drawer where his legal mail was stored, finding the official stamped divorce certificate laid flat beneath unopened business memos. He stared at my signature scrawled across the bottom page for a full minute, shock paralyzing his limbs, before a desperate plan solidified in his head. He'd drive straight to the county courthouse first thing the next morning, file emergency paperwork to void the finalized divorce, erase all legal separation records, and win me back before I could put permanent distance between us and the Voss name. He bolted out the front door of the mansion 10 minutes later, jumping behind the wheel of his luxury sports car, ready to head downtown to file his emergency motion, only to find Luna standing directly in the driveway, arms folded across her chest, waiting to intercept him before he could pull out onto the main road. She wrenched open the passenger door and slid onto the leather seat uninvited, her eyes catching sight of the folded divorce certificate resting on the center console between them. Her voice spiked with sharp, indignant disbelief the second she spotted the legal document. You two actually finalized the divorce? Sharon's nearly 40 years old, no family outside her late father, no corporate connections of her own. How does she expect to survive alone without your financial support? You spoiled her relentlessly for 3 years, and she throws everything away over a tiny hospital argument. Luna leaned forward, reaching out to tap the divorce papers with one manicured nail, her tone sharp with bitter jealousy as she rambled on about how lenient Wesley had been toward me. This entire mess is her fault for attacking me while I'm carrying Carter's heir. She clearly used the divorce forms as leverage to make you cave to her demands, and you're foolish enough to consider undoing the separation just to bring her back home. You shouldn't reward her toxic, violent behavior with forgiveness. Wesley's knuckles whitened around the steering wheel, irritation simmering beneath his skin at Luna's endless badgering about me. He said nothing in response, only pressed harder on the gas pedal once he emerged onto the highway toward the county courthouse, Luna chattering nonstop beside him the entire drive, picking apart every one of my perceived flaws and mistakes. When the car pulled into the courthouse parking lot, Luna twisted in her seat to face Wesley, putting on her soft, vulnerable act once more, a sad smile tugging at her lips as she rested a hand lightly over her pregnant stomach. You know I'm still legally married to Carter. Whatever happened between us these past years can never turn into anything permanent. Don't forget that, Wes. I'd never leave him, not with our baby on the way. Wesley shoved open his car door without acknowledging her weak attempt at emotional manipulation, grabbing the divorce certificate off the center console and marching straight to the civil records filing window, leaving Luna sitting alone in the passenger seat to watch him rush through the courthouse double doors. He leaned across the counter toward the court clerk, desperation thick in every syllable of his request. Good morning. I need to submit an emergency motion to revoke a finalized divorce between Wesley Voss and Sharon Reed Voss. I acted out of blind anger when signing the papers. The separation was never my genuine intention. The clerk glanced down at the printed divorce file pulled from the back storage cabinet, rolling her eyes faintly at Wesley's frantic demeanor, unimpressed by his last-minute reversal. Divorce filings aren't casual impulse decisions. Sir, we process hundreds of separations monthly from clients who regret their heated arguments afterward. I'll process your revocation application, and you'll need to reapply for a brand new marriage license once the voiding paperwork clears our system. 30 minutes later, Wesley walked back out of the courthouse clutching a brand new, blank marriage license in his palm, the official paperwork voiding our prior divorce filed and logged in the county database. Luna stood waiting on the front concrete steps, jaw hanging loose with stunned disbelief as she watched him wave the fresh marriage license in front of her face, fully prepared to track me down and beg me to remarry him. She snatched the license out of his grip the second he reached the sidewalk, flipping the paper over to scan the printed legal language, her voice rising with unbridled rage and hurt confusion. Why undo the divorce? She left voluntarily, signed all paperwork without hesitation, hasn't sent you a single text or call in 7 full days. She doesn't care about you at all, yet you're scrambling to erase the legal separation just to hand her another chance to hurt our family again. Wesley ripped the marriage license back out of her grasp, his gaze sharp and icy, every ounce of his prior blind adoration for her fraying thin at the edges as he finally snapped back at her endless slander of me. Luna, Sharon was your sister-in-law long before any of this mess began. Before I married her, she treated you with nothing but kindness and respect, and you've spent 3 years twisting every small interaction to paint her as a villain in my eyes. Do you think your constant backhanded insults about her are fair or morally right? Luna's confidence crumbled instantly, her eyes glistening with fake tears as she stepped backward, hands raised in a gesture of surrender. I only spoke up because I hate watching you waste your energy on someone who doesn't value you, and I thought I was defending you from her unfair outbursts, nothing more. Wesley shook his head sharply, already turning back toward his car, ready to drive away and leave her behind at the courthouse steps. I don't need anyone defending me against my wife. Your opinions on Sharon aren't welcome anymore. Before he could unlock his driver's side door, Luna let out a shrill gasp, doubling over and clutching hard at her rounded abdomen, face draining pale as paper as she stumbled unsteadily toward him, feigning extreme abdominal pain linked to her pregnancy. Wes, my stomach, something's wrong. The cramping won't stop. Wesley froze mid-step, instinctual concern flaring up for a split second, old lingering affection for her briefly overriding his frustration, but he quickly regained clarity, pulling out his cell phone to dial Carter's personal number instead of rushing to steady her falling frame. I'll call Carter immediately. He'll bring the family physician to meet you here within 15 minutes to check on the baby. He paused, glancing down at her hunched, pained fake posture, his tone firm and final, cutting off all future ambiguous tension between them for what he believed would be good. I told you this would be the last time I compromised Sharon's happiness for your benefit, and I meant it. What happened between us inside the mansion the night she left was my mistake, but I won't keep letting you tear apart my marriage with your jealousy. Stop speaking of Sharon. She's my wife, and she's allowed to feel angry and hurt after everything we put her through. The hospital slap incident was a terrible misstep on her part, but she's already lost our child and walked out of this life entirely. Leave her be from now on. Without waiting for Luna to respond or beg for further attention, Wesley slid behind the wheel, slammed the car door shut, and hit the gas hard, peeling out of the courthouse parking lot and leaving her stranded alone on the concrete steps, seething with unspoken rage as she watched his vehicle vanish onto the main highway.